we need a roll call today. We're gonna say all five.
Okay.
How about our agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Any discussion on the agenda? All those in favor?
Aye.
Carries. How about our minutes from our May 14th meeting?
To approve as written.
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes? Not all's in favor?
Aye.
Carries. Any public comments? Supervisors not seated as committee members to speak. All right, how about discussion on the WPPA contract?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I can start that off. As we start this process and moving forward, our county goals are to have a fair contract that works for the union and also the county. Administration is open to a longer term contract if the interest, the union. The administration is open to looking at the steps and the increment between them if the union has interest in doing that. The process is negotiations begin when we receive a letter from WPPA initiating the talks. Anticipated that letter coming now through July. It has been as late as August we've been negotiating. Today, though, we need General Government Committee to appoint a person to negotiate on its behalf. This has been Chairman Russ in the past, and Corporation Counsel Joe Loso can walk the committee through the process of appointments.
So basically, what you've done in the past is Supervisor Arcand has just been more or less agreed to by the committee that he would be the representative. This committee is technically the committee that's assigned to negotiate all labor contracts. Theoretically, the entire committee should engage in the negotiation based upon that unless there's a specific delegate. I don't think we need a resolution. I think if by consensus, you can all agree that Mr. Arcand will continue to be the representative that negotiates, and if Mr. Supervisor Arcand agrees to do so, I think that's a fine way to do it. But some formal decision is probably better than just saying, well, this is how we've done it before and not take any action. It's not on for action today, so you can take that, think about it, or even discuss it today, how you want the negotiation to move forward. And then at the next committee meeting, you can formally make a decision and take action on what you want to do.
I'd like to mention the fact that Russ has been doing it for as long as I can remember on this board, and that's over 20 years. So I think we started about the same time, and that was his charge at the time, and it's been that way ever since. It's just natural in my mind.
I think he does a wonderful job as well.
Yeah, well, that's right. I'm glad you added that.
It's pretty easy now that we only have one group that we negotiate with.
Yeah.
We used to negotiate with 450 employees.
I remember it used to be kind of tough for you at times, I recall. Yeah.
So don't we possibly meet with them next meeting?
So they
Next
need
month?
to reach out to us and request.
They haven't even,
So they haven't even requested
That's
the
the door.
first step yet. Not that any of you need convincing, but anecdotally, when the entire committee, executive committee tried to negotiate Fair Society, some of you may know or remember, but that when an entire committee tries to negotiate with another party, it becomes a bit of a mess. So I think it is a good idea to delegate a single person. Not advocating for any particular person, but I would recommend that you do that as well.
so we'll do that at the next meeting.
I think it should be on the agenda for discussion and action, and then we can at the next meeting. And you can do it by consensus. There would be no resolution.
And then while we have a whole session next month, so we'd have an opportunity to discuss what,
I think you certainly could. Yep. And then the committee can discuss what priorities they may want to focus on or not focus on in the negotiation. Whoever is chosen would then also have an opportunity to meet with staff outside of the closed session if they wanted to discuss any potential staff priorities.
Right, anything else on that subject? We'll have a budget update.
We're gonna do that?
Yes.
So, we're moving through the budget process. This week, we anticipate getting income statements to departments. We've provisionally determined what the market adjustment and merit increase will be for 2026. And we have a estimated figure for the change to the health plan and what that will cost departments. So we will be providing those income statements to departments here at the end of the week. And that's really when the budget process starts from administration and department's perspective. We got to think about how to reduce costs if we can, and how to appropriately increase revenues if that's a possibility as well. Other things that are going on budget-wise, committees will be considering fee schedules. In fact, this committee will initially consider fee schedules today, and then make a determination and affirm fee schedules for the committee next month. And then in August, this committee will, and I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, but we'll affirm the fee schedule for the entire county. Next month, you'll have an opportunity to see what we were calling annual reports for the departments that this committee oversees as well. That's all I've got, Administrator. Would you like to add anything?
No, we're still monitoring sales tax and everything and being very conservative on our projections on that. It is maintaining fairly well. 3 of the last 5 months have come in under last year, which is not uncommon in a year. Typically, it's about half the months come in under, half go over. We're still trending above, I believe, 5.9%. So we're still in the black currently overall with sales tax. We're looking at our investments to see how they're doing with revenues and how we're laddering those investments to make sure that we have that revenue line as big as we can coming in and stuff. So we're monitoring those. Staffing plans are going out the end of this week with those anticipated costs that Don was talking about with benefits and stuff. Still waiting on numbers for healthcare to see how things look in the long term for both the county and the employee.
Questions, comments?
There's been a couple BOA rulings. How much does that cost in the county? Last few months.
The last few months, I don't have those costs off the top of my head. I'm not sure, Joe,
We
if you
can
would,
get those.
but we can get them for the committee for next week.
Anybody else? All right, we'll have a discussion regarding 2026 general government fee schedule.
Going to be a pretty short agenda item. And your packet on the first page. I just mentioned, ahead of myself, this committee will have the opportunity to review its own fees in July. And in your packet that was sent out, you've got copies of those fees. There's no changes for 2026 projected by any of the departments that are governed by General Government Committee. So no anticipated changes there. You'll have an opportunity to approve those next month. It's just for your initial thinking and consideration today. That's all I've got on that topic, sir.
Got anything? about our discussion regarding outside agency funding requests?
It's all right, sir. I'll stay up here for that. Last 3 years, we've funded, or 3 budget cycles, funded 7 organizations. Actually, I think in 2023, we funded 8. One has dropped away. Just in terms of the total amount that this committee approves for the budget process, 2024, $312,000, up to 331 in 2025, and the current ask from outside agencies is 358. So if you go to the next slide, Claire. And this is just for your consideration. Starting next month, a handful of these folks will be in to make their presentation. You'll have a packet from them. They'll articulate why they think it's important for you to continue to fund, or in some cases to increase the funding of their agency. But this is just sort of lays out where we are right now. You'll notice that there's a larger ask by tourism, and they'll be able to explain why they're interested in getting more money from the county when they come in to discuss in August. So in July, you'll have, I believe, 4 of these come through and hear their pitch, and then in August, the remaining 3. No decision is necessary today. Just want to give you a heads up. This is what we're hearing so far. Questions?
Does the library kind of go into this or no? The
Library's not part of this.
It's part of something
Yeah.
else, okay.
That'll be a separate decision process for you guys to make on that percentage rate.
We send the requests out in May, and the organizations have a month to get us their ask. And so I'm not, the period of getting asks is closed. So this is the sum total of what we got so far. And I don't think we'd consider any others that came in at this point, so. Well, yeah. Hey. Thank you.
All right. How about our discussion regarding the 2025 leases?
If I could leave that off, and then my colleague Sherry Poyer, the finance manager, will bring it home. Just a little bit of information. I guess 3 budget cycles ago, we thought it would be important to start looking at leases, and particularly the amount of subsidization that the county provides for the various tenants in our organization. And so Sherry will lead you through what we found.
All right, so 2 of the organizations that do have space that is county owned are the EDC and the kinship. And so kind of along the lines of that subsidization and what we're providing to them. We'll see on the next slide. And you did get information in your packets as far as like the details on all of this, but sort of an idea around it. We worked with Rod and Facilities to determine what estimated market rate was for similar spaces, and then calculated it out, added a 5% incremental increase over the years to keep the market rate just moving along. And kind of came up with some of these numbers here as far as, previously in 2023, our estimated market rate for the space was the 290,000. We received 51,000, almost 52,000 from that, so only 18% of market. We have increased that incrementally over the years, and we're up to about 31% of market at this point, and the total estimated market at 305,000. Can I go to the next slide? And this is just kind of a breakdown of each of them, showing you where they are in square footage that they rent or lease from us, the estimated annual market, what they're actually paying. Some of them are on multi-year leases. A couple of them are estimated for next year based on a 5% increase as they are ending at the end of the year for their lease. And then just a breakdown of the percentage of market at the end as far as each individual organization. So as you can see, we're about a third of the way there as far as the actual market rate for these and what we're receiving. About 207,000 in subsidy provided to our renters. Any questions on that?
Do we negotiate or contract by the year, or how is it for each one of these?
We've been trying to extend them out to 3 to 5 years at a time. Some of them are still on the 1 year, and I think in the packet, it was in red, noted which ones were ending at the end of the year, and those ones are the ones that are still pretty much on the 1-year leases.
I thought it was important to give you guys the whole picture of this when we lease office space out. And we try, staff is very good at negotiating, trying to raise those rates continually. Unfortunately, some of these organizations have very limited revenue sources to get it to break even.
Thought it was important to show the other ways that we also assist some of the organizations providing support to the county. Anything else? Okay.
Right, an update regarding the recycling special charge.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Rod Polk will have some information on what we anticipate for the recycling charges. You remember this was a pilot program. We use this program also to offset the 3 positions at the law enforcement and move that levy over there. Sustain the recycling center. We had a large capital equipment change this year, anticipate another one next year to update our equipment that was originally placed in the recycling center. The goal is once that fund, the major equipment's in there and this fund is established, should the board continue it, is that now for our residents at the recycling center, we could reduce or eliminate those fees for dropping off special items at that. So it'd be a benefit to our residents at that fee, so.
And on the forms I handed out, obviously there's a lot of numbers there, but if you look at the cumulative balance, on that lower line, the last line on the green form, through the next 4 year, 26, 27, and 28, you can see what our balance will be. And that is assuming that we will purchase all the equipment, all the new fiber sort line, the baler, the container sort line, and then any equipment that does come up for replacement, in addition to the salaries and wages for all the employees. So if you flip it over to the blue page and look at the same cumulative balance, you'll notice that by 2028, we're $2,263,540 in the hole. That's if we get do away with that special charge. Currently, that charge is going to fund and be self-sustaining for the entire recycling program. And if we decide, or if you decide as a board to do away with that, then we have to come up with all the wages for those 5 staff down there, as well as all the rest of the equipment that we are phasing in. And I did do some polling of 9 or 10 supervisors, and initially there was some confusion on what the charge was for by residents, but as a whole, there hasn't been many complaints. Out of everyone that I talked with, there's only been one that actually called Steve Warrendahl, and then he called Mo, and he was a resident of Minnesota that had a cabin here and said he wasn't going to pay it because he takes all of his recycling and garbage with him back to Minnesota. Whether or not that's true or not, I don't know. But that's been the biggest complaint. We had another one. It was a resident that had a house in Barron County that got the Barron fee, and then a garage in Polk County, they got the fee. But it's an improved property, so that's where that all came from. So you can see just some numbers for you guys to digest. And then as Mo said, as this fund builds, you can decide that if it's getting too big, we can transfer some of that money to other CIP projects, but our intent is to
take that fee and then not have to charge the Polk County residents. Like right now, it's $30 to drop off mattresses. We'd like to waive that for Polk County residents once we're done purchasing all the equipment and everything. And we did increase already. We have bins in Apple River, McKinley, and Atlas, and Johnstown is forthcoming. And then on the in St. Croix Falls at the recycling center itself, we did some re-fencing, so we're gonna have bins available 24/7 there for drop off.
As far as the levy dollars, in 2025, it looks like it's still going to the recycling center. Where are those levy dollars going after that?
They go to law enforcement for those three positions.
So we're not reducing the levy.
The levy stays the same.
Yeah, that basically transferred over to those three
On those
positions.
new positions.
Any more comments, questions?
No.
Good. All right, how about our resolution 1925 award? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, why don't you handle it?
Okay, Mr. Chair, if I could, we have a guest with us today, Eric Cass from PMA. That's our investment and bonding consultant. And I believe Eric has a presentation that he'd like to walk the committee through. And then staff's available for any questions, as will Eric be after the presentation.
Good morning, everybody. As Don said, excuse me, my name is Eric Cass. I'm a director of public finance. I've been working on this piece of the discussion here today for probably the last 6 to 9 months related to capital borrowing for needs for the county. If we get into the next slide, so the board adopted an initial authorizing resolution for $2,250,000. It mistakenly says for courthouse projects. I apologize. I forgot to delete that. But it was part of the county administrator's 2025 operating and capital budget and was focused on highway resurfacing and improvement to county-owned buildings. To date, $235,000 of that initial authorized amount was utilized. There was a small issuance done late in 2024, and still remaining is $2,015,000 to fund the remainder of the highway resurfacing and improvements to county-owned buildings, which is part of the discussion here today. Wanted to walk through some of the steps that have already been executed as we work with the county administration to prepare them for the sale that's currently scheduled for next week. So one of the key pieces that we went through was to receive a rating from Moody's, and there were some significant highlights in relation to the rating that was received. You can see down in the right corner that the county received a AA2, which is 2 notches below a AAA rating, and you can see out of 66 counties in the state of Wisconsin that have an existing rating, you fit right in the largest band of a AA2, where there's 26 counties currently with that existing rating. Certainly some a little bit below and a couple above. To put that into perspective, the rating is really a validation by an external party on the credit quality of a county, specifically Polk County. And it really is valuable for investors to understand risk related to repayment of any borrowing that a county might make. And there's no real science behind the value of a rating, but really as we track every deal in the market, it's about a 3 to 5 basis point difference when you go up or down. So a basis point is 0.01%. So putting that into context, if the county would have received a AAA rating, we would project interest rates might be 6 to 10 basis points lower in accessing the market. And the inverse relationship would, of course, exist if a lower credit quality was assigned. Some highlights that I just wanted to bring forward for the county. So when we think about a rating, there's factors that are within the county's control and outside of the county's control. And I think what came through was there's extremely healthy finances at the county, as well as excellent oversight from a board perspective, as well as an administrative perspective. So as it states in that second kind of paragraph, the county is definitely well positioned with their full value per capita and resident incomes above averages for a AA2. And another key highlight that they brought forward was the strong fund balance that the county currently has. Because the rating agency does a good job of how could you get a higher credit quality, get to that AA1, or what are some risk factors related to potentially going down to a AA3 in the future? And those are highlighted in the lower corner. So obviously, not obviously, but continued expansion and diversification of the local economy is a strength that could get you to a AA1 category. And then what are some of the risk factors to a downgrade? Significant decrease to reserves approaching 40% of revenue, where currently the county sits at 74 to 78% of revenue, or an increase in leverage above 250% of revenue as you consider potentially future borrowings, which is something that we will continue to track if more borrowings are coming forward in future years. On the next slide, I wanted to walk through kind of the process and expectations as we move forward with the potential sale next week. So as I stated, the sale is currently scheduled for June 17th. So at 10 a.m., PMA will accept bids on the 2025 notes for $2,015,000. So what that means is any interested bidder across the country or across the world must submit their best and final offer for respective interest rates. One step in the process that Don had us do is we reached out to Bremer, Midwest One, and Pillar local banks and asked them for some indicative rates, and are also in constant communication with them to get them hopefully to submit a bid on the day of sale as well to be considered for the financing. So the winning bidder will have the lowest average interest rate, what we call a TIC, a true interest cost, and that will be verified after we receive those bids at 10 a.m. Then what will happen next is we will send final numbers to bond counsel, who will create the final resolutions for the board's consideration that evening. And we will put a summary presentation to kind of augment the consideration of that final resolution for the county that evening. The last piece I wanted to walk through is a little bit of the structure and how we're kind of approaching the issuance next week from a levy perspective, as well as some theoretical potential debt issuances for $2,250,000 moving forward. So you'll notice just real quick over on the left, the county does have some existing debt, and those are the levies required for those associated debt service payments. And then under that preliminary $2,015,000, we kind of strategically structured it to have a very short amortization of 10 years or less. You can see that we are recognizing a interest rate projection of 4.46%. And then what we've done is modeled out potential issuances, as I stated, for $2,250,000 from 2026 through 2029. And we've done that in order to kind of show that combined debt service where we're able to put a program like that forward with a flat levy for repayment of debt service on an annual basis moving forward. So with that, you can show the last slide, but it's our required disclosures. Don't need to read it to you. But with that, I can pause and see if there's any questions.
Any questions? I think we're good.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, how about a discussion regarding 3 years of zoning permit date?
We have to,
Mr. Chair, we need action to put that resolution to the county board for the obligation of bonding.
I make a motion that
Oh, yep, kind of missed
I
it.
make a motion that we move, resolution 1925, for consideration to the entire county board.
Second.
Or without a recommendation.
With the recommendation.
Second.
Any further discussion on the motion? Not all those in favor? Carries. All right, now we'll have our zoning permit discussion.
So this is the last 3 years of permits issued by the zoning department, both building permits on the left and sanitary permits on the side.
Second column is building permits and the third column is sanitary permits.
Correct.
First column's a year.
That one.
All right.
Pretty consistent over 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes into our net new construction. As you see the permits coming through, we're on a slight uptick, currently for 2025. But we're very consistent.
This is as of today.
Good deals.
This would show 2025 to be off the pace
Slightly lower.
than what 2024 was.
I think these are issued but not in the queue yet.
Okay.
If that is it correct? Are these issued but not, these are the ones that have been approved and submitted, not the ones that are pending in the queue.
Is there time of the year, does that affect the amount of permits requested?
Seasonal.
Yeah, yes, very much.
In other words, this 409 is the earliest, the least effective or active part of the year for zoning. So this 409, if we extended it out, be slightly less than 24, but it could catch up because of the
Yeah, I'd have to do look at where we were this year exactly at the same time, but Logan, do you have any clue?
I mean, I would say it definitely ebbs and flows, not consistently each year, but usually there's a influx in spring when people are planning projects. And then it kind of slows down a little bit. And then there's another slug of, people that are doing projects in the fall and everything. But it's not, I don't think it's anything that's consistent.
It's-
But it definitely, it's busier for sure now, but it does still kind of dips maybe here in the summer.
So-
For a short period and then.
Well, obviously, we're trying to understand whether it's feasible for us to support the additional person on staff, given the permit load that's coming through. So I think that information is critical for us to understand what we think it will be by year end and what is the trend moving forward. That's why I asked for 3 years data.
Okay.
So this does not very conclusive to me for what we feel will happen for the balance of 25.
Right.
I guess I would assume you get very few of them before like, say, the end of March. So you'd have April, May be the only months really with any significant number coming in. I wouldn't think that this number is any lower than the other years.
I think it's significantly lower.
Sarah, what do you think?
I would disagree. I don't think it's significantly lower, Dan. I really do think that we can take a complete look, but I would imagine we'll end up right around 1,000 permits and right around the sanitary permits. And I mean, when we talked about the compliance technician, so the board completely understands, the Environmental Services Committee didn't just look at, there was no talk that it was going to significantly raise the number of permits. General business is general business in Polk County. It was to address, yes, it was going to offer some relief, maybe address some turnover we were always seeing because we're almost doing, just the number of sheer permits in our office is pretty outstanding compared to around surrounding counties. And so it really was to address the hole in compliance, and does he do some additional work and offer some relief to the other staff? Absolutely.
But we're
It's just all about
the fact that it was going to be self-supporting and it hasn't been to date.
it was at 80% in the first year, and that didn't even include, all of my colleagues were looking at the inclusion of the judicial economy that we didn't include in that. And so, I wanted to say, this is specifically what that position made for revenue individually. But I didn't include, we could
We can look at the permits by monthly basis
Well,
if
and
you want, if you want to try to see the.
I'm just trying to get this has gone about 3 different directions through the inside from the start of this. Bringing on the position, what it was going to do, how it was going to be paid, how it was going to be funded, what else he's been doing. And I'm trying to get a feel for what it is that I get a mistrack on this. And I'm trying to get this all secured in my head to understand if we're making the right decision in doing that.
Currently zoning's in the black. It's running above, it's it's to budget. It's running where it needs to be. So we're not losing money on that. It's not behind in, its schedules or, on its income statement.
It's just, for me, it's critical to understand that, that's all.
So is there more information you're requesting or where are we at here?
I don't think it needs to be in the form of in this meeting, but I would certainly like an update to get a feel for what it is by month, to get an understanding what that permit load is and what load's coming into that zoning department. Cause that's where the real rubber hits the road. Is there too much load in that department? Are we in need of that? Are we not in need of it? Where it is? And this data doesn't make that clear either. And I understand that, but I would like to try to find a clearer path to understand where that's at.
So, I mean, I certainly will report on that and I can get you the minutes to the Environmental Services Committee. I'd be happy to just have a meeting with you as well, Dan.
That would be great.
Anybody, so,
Okay, I can do that.
all right, thank you.
Is this,
Alright.
is this item up
Go ahead.
or can we make any
Action,
action on this?
just a discussion.
We have an administrator's update.
Yes, Mr. Chair. See, this is the same report I gave to other committees, so some of the stuff. We talked about the bonding resolution, sales tax. We had a squad hit earlier in June, about 1:26 in the morning on State Highway 35. Got hit by a side-by-side, a UTV, in Dresser. Subsequently, he was caught.
Made
Charges.
news.
Repairs for the Atlas Dam are out for bid right now. That's been a 5-year project. Particularly waiting for DNR to review our plans. It's been 5 years. We've been rolling those funds over. Bids for the grandstand are out right now. They're due in June 12th. And we open those, June 17th. Highway projects continue on county roads F, B, E, and M, along with critical culverts on I. County Road I will be closed in Clam Falls, June 16th through the 18th to complete the actuators work on the Clam Falls Dam. We are currently starting to fill that back up again, which is just about there now on there. Captain Mike Stoffel retired after 32 years in the Sheriff's Department. That was an announcement there. The VSO received a donation from the Balsam Lake American Legion for $2,600 earlier this year to help with veterans, which was a positive. The Mental Health Task Force, which Tanya's been leading that one. We had a meeting with legislators in Rice Lake. That went very well. Subsequently, we sent out last week or the week before a more specific ask for our legislators, defining our numbers for legislative bodies to take to the in the budget process, and they total approximately about $10 to $12 million. 6.4 of that million would be dedicated to Western region of Wisconsin for approximately these are for above mentioned positions up here. They're kind of crisis responders to help with placements and stuff. So that's been going well and been very well received by our legislators. And that's all I got.
Questions for the administrator? Vince?
We were well represented at that meeting too, Polk County.
Very well, yes. We had quite a few supervisors there, along with staff and our elected officials.
Has there been any change with housing an individual that was costing us money? Is that gonna affect this year's budget? That's,
Currently, it's this year's budget.
and it's still going on.
It's still going on, correct? Is in Mendota, correctly?
I'm sorry, what?
That child went from Lincoln Hills to Mendota,
Yes.
but it's the same placement cost currently.
Same, yep, until July 1st is when the rates are scheduled to increase, and I don't know if there's been action at the legislative level on keeping the rates the same. I think that's what they were trying to do.
Okay.
Instead of the I don't know, $1,000 a day increase. Yeah.
Still pretty-
With the administrator. All right, how about our work plan and subject matters for our next meeting? Get on schedule on our work plan?
Yes. You do have the addition of the appointment of negotiator, discussion action, the closed session for WPPA discussions for next month. The BOA costs for the last couple of hearings.
We're gonna start some presentations
Yes,
meeting.
you'll have those in July and in August. Okay, we'll have an investment update also in July. That's not currently on the work plan.
All right, anybody have any other subject matters for our next meeting?
We're gonna have time to discuss and make a decision on whether we're keeping the zoning position or not. Is that somewhere in this? Where you're at?
Ultimately, if you wanted to take any action on that, you would have to, either the committee or a single supervisor, after receiving enough information that you're satisfied that you want to make a decision or want to ask the board to make a decision, you put forward a resolution. That resolution would have to get through a committee and then go to the county board. It would essentially be a budget amendment, so it'd have to pass the board with a 2/3 vote. Alternatively, you could wait until the budget is going through next time, and then when the staffing plan is being approved, just address it at that time. So there's a couple of different theoretical ways to get that done.
All right, well, if anyone has a subject matter they want on the agenda, well, you'll have to hold somebody. One item to go, Jay.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
A second,
Yeah.
Second that.
favor?
All right.
Third at 9:13.